Should.
Maybe you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. So yeah, this one will work, right? This is point about how can I change the slides. This one should work.
Is it not?
It's not working yet. We're changing the slides.
So maybe you could.
I should.
Okay,
Okay,
that's true.
I will use this one.
So I can bring it to.
Yeah, maybe you can put it here.
Okay.
Right.
So welcome everybody to our next session on consumption and sustainable production. It's also for our online participants. My name is Miroslava Bavorová, and I am the chair of the Department of Economics and Development at the University of Life Sciences Faculty of Tropical Agri-Sciences. So here in this building. The first speaker in this session is Mustafa Nassiri, who worked on this research together with Birgit Gassler and Ramona Teuber. And the topic is understanding consumers' perception of meat safety and quality at pre-harvest and harvest stages in Afghanistan, a qualitative content analysis. So Nassiri, Mustafa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. Wonderful presentation so far, great conference. So thank you for the nice introduction. My name is Mustafa Nassiri. I'm a PhD student at the Justus Liebig University of Gießen in Germany. So this is a joint work by myself and Dr. Birgit Gassler and my supervisor, Professor Dr. Ramona Teuber. So this presentation is entitled Understanding Consumers' Perception of Meat Safety and Quality at Pre-Harvest and Harvest Stages in Afghanistan, which is based on a qualitative content analysis. This is just an overview of my presentation. So to get it started, we know that meat consumption tends to increase in the low and middle income countries due to certain factors like income growth, urbanization, and an emerging middle class. But meat and meat products can get contaminated along the value chain at different stages. So then consumption of contaminated meat is a key source of human infection, and that causes meat-borne diseases. So basically meat can get contaminated at 3 stages along the value chain. At the pre-harvest stage, production stage, examples are like that livestock infection to certain pathogens and contamination to hazards like microbes, parasites, and drugs. That is one common example. Other example is that during animal breeding, it's possible that livestock can get contaminated, and so on. There are some other examples also. And then at the harvest stage, meat can get contaminated to hazards during slaughtering. This is a very clear example. For example, contamination with gut content is a common phenomenon. Animal skins, workers, and also the occurrence of physical and chemical contamination can also happen at this stage. Then at the post-harvest stage, so meat can get contaminated during transportation, packaging, storage, and also sales and even food services. Now, based on this background, in Afghanistan particularly, meat is produced by two different animal husbandry systems, the sedentary system and nomadic system. So the sedentary system consists of small-scale livestock holders that only sell their surplus to the market. On the other hand, the bulk of the domestic meat is produced by the nomads, the nomadic system. And besides these two systems, we have also urban raised ruminants, which is not a system per se, They are actually the nomads that bring their livestock inside residential areas in larger cities just to sell their livestock. So they make small livestock markets just for marketing and selling their ruminants. And when they are roaming around inside urban areas, they feed on garbage, as you can see in this picture. And that increases the risk of the livestock to get infected or contaminated to certain food safety hazards. That's then dangerous. Then at the harvest stage, where meat is slaughtered, again, we have two systems. The conventional traditional butcheries, and then in the past 2 decades, we also have modern slaughterhouses established in larger cities that produce safer meat to the market. So the meat is, these slaughterhouses are equipped with better equipment and machines and technologies and even cold storages and laboratory meat testing laboratories. And then after processing, the meat is transported to supermarkets, and in supermarket also the condition is much better in terms of every aspect compared to the traditional butcheries. Now, given this background, the question is, which role does meat play in daily food consumption, and how do consumers judge the quality and safety of meat before and after purchase? And how do consumers perceive the meat safety and quality stemming from 2 different livestock systems that I just explained, the sedentary system and the nomadic system? And the third question we would like to address is, how do consumers perceive meat from traditional abattoirs, that is traditional butcheries, versus modern slaughterhouses? So for that, because this is a qualitative study, we conducted focus group discussions. The idea is that why we chose focus group discussions, because it provides rich data about people's beliefs, views, and opinions about the subject, about the meat. That's what we wanted to know. So we conducted 7 focus group discussions, 4 in Bamiyan and 3 in Kabul. And a total of 52 participants took part in our focus group discussions, minimum 6, maximum 10 participants in each session. All sessions were audio recorded, then transcribed into local language before being translated into English. And then for the systematic analysis, we used MaxQDA version 2020 and 2021. So we found out that meat is the highly preferred food in Afghanistan, among other foods, and therefore the provision of safe food to the consumers is highly important, and that's highly important also for the safety of the consumers. Now, on how consumers judge the safety of meat and quality of meat, especially the quality of meat before purchase and after purchase, we use this total food quality model, which is originally designed by Grunert. So this model has 2 dimensions. The vertical dimension, which is also known as the time dimension, this dimension actually distinguishes between the evaluation of meat before purchase and after purchase. And then it also has a vertical dimension. So in the vertical dimension, the meat quality is evaluated based on experience, quality cues, based on search attributes, credence attributes, and experience attributes. So in our research, we found out that the most important, before purchase, the most important intrinsic quality cues are freshness, color, smell, fat content, age, texture, and the bone proportion of the meat. While the most important extrinsic quality cues are cleanliness of the butchery, of the shop, place of origin of the meat, slaughter date, storage condition, quality certification stamp. So they based on these attributes, the expected purchase motive of the consumer is fulfilled. And besides that, we also found that meat price is also important for the consumers before purchase. However, the most important finding at this stage is that which is not available in the original total food quality model of Grunert, we found that for the Afghan consumers, because Afghanistan is a Muslim country, and for Afghan consumers, halal qualification is very important, highly important, and also the safety. So these all attributes have, impact on the overall intention of consumers to buy the meat or not to buy it before purchase. Then after purchase, we found that taste, tenderness, and trust on local butchery play important role in forming the experience purchase motive of the consumer. So altogether, these attributes play, based on these attributes or considering these attributes, the future purchase of the consumer is formed based on this model. And then about the quality and safety perception of meat at different, stemming from different livestock systems, we found out that consumers in the focus group discussions or participants in focus group discussions basically talked or expressed their views about 4 different systems: sedentary ruminant system, nomadic system, urban raised ruminants, and or farm animals. So they evaluated, they expressed their perceptions based on these elements like pasture type, exposure to food safety hazard, quality, taste, price, and animal welfare. So the positive signs here show positive perception. On the other hand, negative signs show negative perceptions. So we found out that in terms of pasture type, exposure to food safety hazard, quality, taste, and animal welfare, the general perception towards the meat that stems from ruminant livestock system and from the sedentary livestock system and nomadic system, the general perception are positive towards the meat that comes from these systems. On the other hand, based on these elements, the perceptions are mostly negative towards the meat that comes from urban raised ruminants and also farm animals. For example, let's consider pasture type. Why the perception is positive? Because they think that sedentary livestock system or the animals in nomadic, they have access to diverse natural and high altitude pasture system. On the other hand, the animals that are raised inside residential areas, they feed on food wastes and residues. So they have we have negative perceptions about that. Likewise, let's consider this animal welfare. About animal welfare also, participants think that animal welfare, its status in the sedentary system and nomadic system is high because it's due to free movement and good feeding, and vice versa for the animals that are raised inside, cities, in the cities. Now, how is the perception on the quality and safety of butcheries or meat coming from butcheries versus supermarkets? Again, we have diverse perceptions, both positive and negative perceptions. So the positive perception about the traditional butchery is that the meat is fresh, that the meat is natural, the taste is good and it's healthy, and also that the meat is halal. So this halal attribute itself has an impact on the consumer's trust, or it results in higher trust for the meat that comes from the butchery. And also that the food safety hazard is lower here. On the other hand, the negative perceptions are that there's lack of food safety control system. And as a result of that, selling of diseased ruminant is common in this system. And the food safety hazards are also high. Other perceptions are negative perceptions are about the hygiene and sanitation condition of these traditional butcheries. So one example is the use of contaminated tools. They use contaminated knives and other tools. On the other hand, what are perceived negative for the traditional butcheries are actually perceived positive when they express their views about supermarket meat. So in terms of food safety hazards, they are controlled. There's higher control of food safety hazards in the supermarket, and the supermarket meat is better in quality due to better equipment and good practices. Hygiene condition is also high there, and that process, packaging, and storage condition is also good and higher in the supermarkets, and better in quality if processed and packaged abroad. And also that the meat is healthier and cleaner. But there are also negative perceptions. Negative perceptions are that the meat is not fresh, the taste is not good, and they are, because of lack of food safety control system, food fraud is also practiced there, and that there are also food safety hazards available in the system. And that the quality of imported meat for Afghanistan in particular is low, and that they are not preserved or refrigerated properly. Why? That is because of non-reliable power supply. So to conclude, we found that meat is the main food, is among the main foods in the Afghan daily diet. And because of that, the provision of safer meat is pivotal and very important for the public health in general. So on meat quality judgment, before purchase, we found that freshness, place of origin, safety, and halal slaughtering are important. And after purchase, taste, tenderness, and trust on local butchery, these are the important things. And at the production stage, slaughtering stage, production stage, sedentary and nomadic ruminants are, the perceptions are higher for the meats coming from these systems because of higher quality and higher animal welfare in the system and lower food safety hazards. While the perceptions about the meat coming from urban raised ruminants is negative because it's considered or perceived unsafe and of lower quality and animal welfare. At the harvest stage and processing, supermarket meat is perceived better and hygienic, but not fresh, while the butchery meat is perceived fresh and natural, but unhygienic. So we also found that food fraud is practiced at all stages of meat production. So based on these findings, we can, our findings imply that there's strong reliance and trust on the traditional butchery, although focus group participants also acknowledged the prevalence of food safety hazards in the system and lower animal welfare. So that kind of implied that there is optimistic bias demonstrated by the participants for the traditional butchery meat. So we can recommend, based on these findings, that the adoption of good animal husbandry practices, and maybe there is a dire need for a strong food safety regulatory enforcement by the government, and also implementation of hazard analysis critical control point may help at both at all these stages, production and processing levels. And of course, more consumer awareness campaigns can also help provide safer meat to the public. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's it.
So thank you very much for the presentation. And now the questions, please. Are there any questions? Ayat?
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. You have hello, you have collected this part. Okay, you have worked very rich data and you have suggested very good recommendation, but I am afraid after Ashraf Ghani government, who will implement these, to whom you are suggesting these implementation?
Well, that's not my responsibility. I'm a researcher. I'm not a politician, so there will always be an alternative government. Now, also, there is a government.
Who are those alternatives to government? Like, I will say in Pashto or Persians that these mullahs cannot implement these implementation. Neither they allow others to implement these suggestions. Mm-hmm. So do not you think that your research is a waste of time? I will say that.
No, it's
sorry to say that maybe in future someone will be able to implement that. But at present, do not you think that you wasted time maybe?
Well, definitely not, because this research has, general implications for the whole. As I said, there are certain countries that have similar contexts to the Afghanistan, developing countries. So this research is not just for Afghanistan. It is a contribution to science first of all, it's a contribution to the literature on the topic of this research, and then it's not specifically to Afghanistan. We have similar countries, not just in Afghanistan, but in Africa, many similar countries. So it has general implications. Afterwards, yeah.
Okay, thank you for a nice presentation. My interest is to know the composition of focus group member. What is the composition? Did you include different people and different residents or different socioeconomic status? That is my first question. And my second question is about how did you evaluate the age and fat content of meat? Because the way I see the fat content, it could be different from the other person. Do you have any standardized tool which have been used on that? Thank you.
So to your first question, the criteria for inviting the participants in our studies in focus group discussions were that they are meat consumers and aged at least 18 years and that they are buying meat. That were the basic criteria for inviting the participants to take part in the discussions. And so we had, now due to time, I did not show you the socio-demographic, characteristics of the participants, but we had both male and 40% female participants in focus group discussions and 60% were male. That's, I think, a good, combination of in terms of gender, yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for this interesting research. And the next presentation will be given by Fernando Rodriguez Camayo, and he will talk about responses of the local food system during the first wave of COVID-19 from Honduras.
Yours? No, maybe it's that one. Yeah. Okay. Just let me check. No. No. Ah, there. Okay, perfect. So I have to stay here. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fernando Rodriguez. I am a PhD student from Center for Development Research, and also I am visiting research of the International Tropical Agriculture. Thank you for the presentation. It's a pleasure to share one of my chapters with you. Today, I'm going to talking about the effects and responses for local food system during the first wave of COVID. This is the case of coffee farming households in the Western Honduras. This is the structure of the presentation. The pigs represent the most consumed vegetables in the study area. This is the main market before of the COVID crisis. And the evidence about the mobility restriction, how impacted mobility restriction on food system is increasing a lot. But the responses and coffee strategies of local food system are not understood well. And especially the dependencies and interlinkage of food system actors between rural and urban areas, and responses of the stakeholders of the coffee sector to confront food insecurity of households during the crisis. My objective is to understand the responses of the stakeholders of the food system under the COVID-19 lockdown and in Western Honduras. My first question is how the local food system changed under mobility restriction, The second one is how the coffee farmers household cope with food insecure. And the third one is what is the role of the coffee cooperative could be in supporting household to cope with food insecurity. And to understand that context, we are use the framework is divided in four components. The first one is the shock and stressor, how it impacted the food system, activities, and actors. And according to that, how the food system look at the access and availability dimensions, change it according to the set of action and strategies of the communities or in household or system to cope with this crisis. This is the resilience capacity according to Benet. Yeah. This is the story area. Let's see. This is the pointer. Maybe, yes. Okay, this is America. This is Central America. This is Honduras. This is the Western Honduras, which is a border with Guatemala and Salvador. Well known like a Trifino area. We use a mixed methods combining a structured household survey in 2020, 91 observation only. But we use also the food insecurity scale FIES developed by FAO. The answer that we collect before in 2019 as a part of my PhD also. And the semi-structured qualitative interviews with the coffee actor, no, the food system actor in the local area study. And just is for to show you how is the time map of the we collect the data. This is the month. Above this the mobility restriction. One of the mobility restriction was so extended between April and September is within municipalities and between municipalities and states. And our collected data start in May till the end of June. And the survey was in whole June, basically. Okay, results. The most fresh food came from outside of Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and United States. Fruits, basically, like pears, apples, and grapes, and also vegetables like broccoli, cauliflowers, cucumbers, carrots, and so on. Farmers reduced their agricultural activities during that mobility restrictions, and the numbers of intermediaries using this using pickups start to increase a lot. Try to move to some vegetables from local producers that will remain just some activities in them, and move to remote areas in this part of the Honduras. This is the main food marketplace in San Marcos, was closed, totally closed for 45 days. And the price of the vegetables rose and became unaffordable for most of the households. Changes in household food security. Basically, this is the result of the food experience scale. And please see the point black represented 2019 answers and 2020 represented during the COVID-19. So the changes was around 30% of the households in 2019, 50% of them experienced did not report food insecure. But in 2020, 30% of them, or 32 households, moved from the zone of the food security to marginally food insecure. That increase in that part. The households report more food insecure. It means that the household compromise quality and variety of food. Some of them compromise or reducing the quantities of escaping meals. Now we see the coffee household strategies to address the food insecure. Surprisingly, one of the most common strategy was the use and savings, which is come from the coffee harvest. And the second one, they have no idea what to do to confront food insecure. But also many of them, they're use like access to credit, like a strategy to cope food insecure, and some of them so a less or reduce the procure of food. But some voices of farmers say that will to grow to vegetables, but to know to access the market is needed. It's not the problem is know how I can grow up vegetables. The problem is how they link with the market. Take in mind that. Now, the cooperative or strategies of the address the member food insecure basically was they provide food provisions, cash transfers to members, and loans. However, many of the farmers claim for just we need to connect with the market, but the cooperatives have barriers, which mean that they could not commercialize other kind of products, just only coffee by status. And also they have no skills to link with the market. Okay, so the conclusions. The COVID lockdown, the local system disrupted the availability of foods because the fresh food come from outside of the country. Coffee farmers' household had limited resilience to food insecure. And reducing expenses and taking financial debt are an unsustainable strategy in the future, and extreme events are likely to occur more frequently. While the local market needed fresh food and coffee farmers were interested to plant for crops, they lacked to the resources and skill to do so. Farmer resilience building a strategy such as food support and financial strategies were successful for mitigate the food insecurity, but for short time. The recommendations we say that we believe that the coffee sector needs to increase the resilience of the households, but exploring more innovative strategies with them. And coffee farmers should diversify also in food production, have to be linked with the local market, adjust to the local consumption patterns, and cooperative could be provide agricultural inputs such as seeds and producer training and to grow food on farm according to the weather condition and local markets. And also we recommend that cooperative should diversify the business models to include more social values from coffee members in their business model. This could be supported for public and private policies. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
So thank you very much, Fernando, for keeping the time of 10 minutes. And now I would like to open the discussion. That is the first question.
Thank you, Fernando. That was very interesting topic, and it's something that I'm also studying. I am wondering, because coffee is so particular, basically you get one income 1 year. So when you sell the coffee, you get an income. And I feel that this is one of those factors that adds to food insecurity, because basically if you have a lockdown in April and the harvest is December, January, you're without an income in all these months. So I am wondering, I agree also that a recommendation is to diversify and also to link to a local market. I'm wondering if you have studied anything related to how to create these better links or value addition at the household level. So maybe it could be a strategy to mitigate these big challenges that farmers face.
And this is a good question. Also, it's part of my second chapter that I presented in a poster. And then the coffee sector tried to promote climate-smart agriculture and just only focus on trees and food and coffee production. But in part of this kind of climate strategies, they could include food like corn, beans, and fruits and other kind of crops as part of the strategy for adoption or adopt the strategies to cope with also the climate. So also the coffee sector could be support them through the certified levels also, because also this is one of the ways to promote the food consumption, or also as part of the responsibility of the big companies and so on. But yeah, I hope that responds your.
Thank you so much for your presentations. I have one questions. Though it's just I don't know why you want to select the coffee farmers as your sample, because like I know Honduras is so famous about coffee, but like your personal like interest, like you want to do with the coffee farmers or
For this research?
Yeah.
Okay. During the COVID, when the COVID started, I was in that region, but one of the objectives was different. Just I am looking the strategies of the coffee farmers in that region. But when the mobility restriction start or the curfew start, so I have to change my objective, and was really key for me to understand how the food system around the coffee farmers respond against the mobility restriction to increase or maintain the food security, because it's part of my PhD. It's more like in that way isolate these households, because I had the information before in 2019, so I can compare difference between them. Was key for me.
Just like because she say about the coffee farmers that like 1 year they have to spend whole the year and to invest the first money for fertilizer and also for the labor intense, and the end of the year they can earn money. But for example, the global coffee price is also flexible. Like also like changed every time, low and high. So they even don't know the end of the year they can earn what they earn can like cover the expense or not. So probably I don't know what happened with the Honduras coffee farmers, that their saving before is enough for them to use when the COVID-19 happened, or. And also sometimes because you said about the mobility restrictions. So normally I do also the coffee, but in Vietnam, and the coffee farmers and their field is not near each other, so not like a farming system. So for some coffee farmers, they have the field far away from their homes, around even like a 10 or 15 kilometers. So it's impossible for them to like to go there and to do the irrigation. So yeah, and the coffees consume a lot of water. So
yeah, they are living in their farms. It's part of the they are living inside of the farm. Yeah, they have a house, in as a part of the land. Yeah, and yeah, they are using the saving from coffee harvest to procure beans and maize between February and March, and to storage them for the next 2 or 6 months. And then they have to go to get more incomes with outside of the farm. Off farm, I mean, they are going to move into some urban areas to work in a constructor sector or something like this. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You have provided information throughout your presentation on journal vegetable, but you have presented results on coffee production. So I am afraid that from your presentation, do you mean that these are only coffee, like their entire income is only from coffee, and through this income they purchase vegetable? Because there is no connection between providing results on coffee and providing information on vegetables. I could not understand. The other thing is, do not you think that for the food security purposes, the most important would be not that where food comes to market, like from USA or from wherever food comes to market, but the most important would be that how households access this food in local markets. Thank you so much.
Yes, I can show you because the time is so low, but I have to, no, that's fine. But I can show you the food suppliers change it also for the access of food. But thank you for your question. It's really.
So on the coffee value chain now, and the next presentation will be by Anna Grigoreva, and the research is on how can cascara. We will learn what cascara is. Authorization in the European Union contribute to sustainable development of the global coffee value chain. A multiple case study. Anna, the floor is yours. You will receive another microphone.
Yes, you can just pin this to you. Then put this in your pocket.
Here. The pointer is right. This is the pointer. This is the pointer. And this is and this is the pointer. Okay.
Try it if it's working. If not, you do this.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's start. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Grigoreva, and I would like to present my master thesis project supervised by Dr. Birkenberg and Professor Binner from the University of Bornheim in Germany. The research topic is how can cascara authorization in the European Union contribute to sustainable development of the global coffee value chain. Cascara is something that you can already see on this slide. It's right here. Is the dried coffee cherry leftovers that remain after one removes the coffee bean. And in other words, sorry, doesn't work. Can you help me, please? It's not moving. Thank you. So in other words, cascara is the primary byproduct of the coffee production. Besides, it is the most nutritious part of the coffee plant, being rich in various compounds. And that is why one of the present applications for cascara, or the dry coffee cherry, lies in the food industry, which is the production of a refreshment drink based on the dried coffee cherry. And this is being produced already by various companies around the world. And adding value to previously discarded byproducts like cascara may play a big role for the bioeconomy, especially in terms of the waste reduction, agricultural waste reduction, because only coffee production generates more than 10 million tons of solid waste annually,
along with high amounts of wastewater. However, those companies operating in the European Union unfortunately had to stop their cascara beverage production, since in 2017 it was classified as novel food and prohibited for further marketing. Novel food term, it means that the food was not used for human consumption at the European market before 15 May 1997. And to date, there are two opportunities for novel food authorization in the European Union. It's either the traditional foods from third countries, which is based on the history of its safe consumption, or as completely novel ingredient, which is based on the scientific proof of its safety. By the way, after the research was conducted already, this year, cascara was already authorized in the European Union under both authorization possibilities. However, the researchers highlight that for innovative novel products, besides its food safety matter, it is another determinant that would define the acceptance of the product. And this is the commercial competitiveness of novel food on the considered market of operation. Therefore, in the light of the events of cascara changing status in the in the European Union, and also taking into considerations the existing challenges of the whole global coffee value chain, the following knowledge gap needed to be addressed. Which role does novel food regulation play in fostering the global coffee value chain? So 3 objections were set. First, to assess the competitive environment of cascara beverages producers in the EU. Second, to understand cascara prohibition effects on businesses and possible effects on the European trade of cascara beverages after it's authorized. Besides, to identify potential impacts on the sustainability of the whole global value chain, which would be caused by cascara authorization for the use in beverages. So the study followed a qualitative multiple case research design. Initially, 8 cases were selected, but those in the red box showed no interest in participation. So eventually, 5 semi-structured interviews with the company representatives from the green box were interviewed. They all were interviewed online. The approximate duration of each interview was around 1 hour. A few words about the conceptual framework. This is the visualization of the one used. It was the combined framework from the one suggested by the Food and Agricultural Organization for Sustainable Food Value Chains Development, and also included the Michael Porter's framework for competitive environment analysis. You can see it here. It consisted of 3 phases, basically as according to FAO: understanding performance, measuring performance, and improving performance. And with regard to data analysis, a so-called framework analysis was used for coding the information retrieved from the respondents, which means that thematic codes were already created in advance on the basis of literature research. In our case, they were retrieved from Porter's framework. So now turning to the results. First of all, the assessment of the competitive environment of cascara beverages as perceived by the cascara producers, so the industry of operation, looks as follows. The figure represents the strength of the underlying forces in the industry for cascara beverage producers. In our case, it was the European soft beverage market. So as you can see, substitute level and buyer power are the strengths with the highest force, vice versa, the forces with the highest strength, sorry. And here, it makes sense to know that those two forces make the industry less attractive for cascara beverages producers. Interesting finding here with regard to biopower was that the parameter contributing to the most of it was buyers' information about the product, which according to the literature, normally, the more information the buyer has about the product, the more power he has. However, it turned out that with the novel food, this parameter holds reverse relationship. And this was also proven by some of the researchers that relate food neophobia problem with the novel food adaptation, and they offer basically that this problem needs to be addressed when adapting novel food on the market. Next, cascara prohibition effects. A few words about that. So basically, small companies in the European Union, they all had to shut down their production of cascara beverages. However, two of them operating outside the European Union, they decided to undergo the process of cascara authorization in the European Union, along with big companies like Lavazza and Nestle. And we also discussed possible authorization effects. Back then, cascara was not yet authorized, and some interesting findings retrieved from the interviews are visualized here. So first of all, as possible positive effects is the resumed production of the cascara beverage, which is great, and it is also going to be safe, because one of the responses directly said, novel food legislation makes sense because we had problems. Our company had problems with mold. In their case, it was mold. It's also other industries being interested in cascara, which is also great. However, another side of the medal is that participating big companies, they tend to push very, very general specifications for cascara. Like, for instance, they want to push this cascara originated from Robusta, which is normally, it is not the benchmark, because normally before the prohibition, small businesses produce it from Superior, Arabica coffees. And one respondent even said that he observed the situation when a big company introduced a cascara product outside the European Union, but it was tasting so bad. And he predicts that the same could happen in the European Union, and it would lead to the market failure for all of the players. With regard to potential impacts on the sustainability of the whole global coffee value chain, when the cascara is authorized, it was basically found that farmer income problem and waste amount problems could be addressed. However, under certain limits that you can see in the boxes, these limitations mostly have to do with cascara market success, with how much farmer support there will be, and strategies of big companies, which are yet unknown. However, there is one limitation that stems out the novel food legislation, and this is the authorized parameters for cascara use in beverages. For instance, the level of residues from pesticides, which could probably turn the farming practices into more organic, for instance. So, to conclude, the role of novel food legislation for cascara in fostering the global coffee value chain, on the one hand, ensures food safety protection. It has the possibility to consider parameters from various submissions, and they all need to be revised and considered. And also, as I already mentioned, not long ago, changing agricultural practices could take place in favor of more organic and sustainable. However, due to the complexity and financial burden for small businesses to undergo this authorization process, unfortunately, mostly big companies participate in this process, and they push the acceptance of very, very broad parameters, as I mentioned before, with the Robusta and so on and so forth. Therefore, this Cascara drink will turn from niche product to a mass-produced product, which will lead to cost reduction attempts and therefore will diminish the sustainable impacts that could appear. And last but not least, these two broad parameters could also lead to market failure for all. So thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm happy to answer your questions if you have them.
So thank you very much, Anna, for your presentation. So if I may, so I would like to ask the first question. Did you taste the Cascara beverage?
Not yet,
Not yet.
because it was only authorized at the beginning of this year.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I came to study to the university, to the European Union, when it was already prohibited. So I had no chance yet, but I'm
Okay. Is
looking
anybody
forward.
here in the audience who tasted? Yeah, did you?
Oh.
Is it good? Is it? Okay. So we it makes sense to make research on it, because I somehow heard that you said that somebody said that it is not tasty, and
If it's not from the superior coffee varieties, then
Okay.
it might be not
Okay.
tasty.
Okay, so thank you very much for this clarification. Are there any questions from the audience? I think we can have two questions. Maybe, yeah, first one, Stefan.
Yeah, just thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. I came across Cascara first a few years ago in Panama. I was visiting a coffee farm there, and they also sold it as like a byproduct, but Panama is a very small player in the global coffee markets. So I was just wondering if you know which, let's say, coffee producing areas, such as I think Brazil, Vietnam are the biggest ones, but do you know which countries or which producing areas are already focusing on also marketing Cascara as a product in a way?
Do you need the microphone? Okay. Okay. Thank you for your question. Basically, this question was always asked to the respondents with regard which countries they were, which farms in which countries they were cooperating with. Brasilia was there, also Panama was there. But interestingly about Panama is that one of the applicants that applied for the novel, like not traditional, but novel ingredient of Cascara, I asked him, why did you do that? Why? Because it's such a complicated process. He said, because in Panama, there is not really proven history of its use, which surprised me a lot. So I guess Panama might not be very, focused on it. However, Brazil is already there. For instance, that's what I heard from the respondents.
But it's available there, no?
And just came from a data collection from the Vietnam coffee farmers.
Ah.
Today.
Okay.
So when I asked the farmers about this,
and they said that they don't know about these products. They just sell normally they sell the green bean because they don't want to spend time to dry it. So they just like directly sell it to the collector. And like I understand when you say about this, like it costs a lot of money and process and about the organics, because after, so I came also on the company, they only this company, they do the contracts with the farmers, and the farmers have to do everything in the organic way. So that after that, they collect these cherries, dry the cherries, and also the flour. So they make the tea from the coffee flowers. So absolutely, these products should be produced in the organic way. Otherwise, they cannot sell it. They cannot use. That's why.
Thank you for the attention.
Yes.
Our
next presentation is by Tina and the topic is evaluation of the activities of different designs for child products by dependents on customers.
Is this working?
Okay, hi everyone. So I'm Ina Kramer. I'm from the Department of Agricultural Economics from the South Westphalia University of Applied Science. And my only affiliation with coffee is that I like drinking. So I'm now focusing on the question or on the evaluation of the attractiveness of packaging designs for child food products by Beninese customers. Okay, so malnutrition is a widespread problem in African drylands. In Benin, the location of our study, 31% of children are going to be faced by lifelong physical and mental impairments caused by malnutrition. This obviously does not only influence the development of individuals, but of economics and entire countries. Local women groups are able to produce artisanal food products that are healthy and affordable. And they can really make a difference and offer a solution when it comes to fighting malnutrition. However, these women need appropriate, attractive packaging to access the formal market. And since data on packaging from sub-Saharan Africa is rare, we decided to conduct a conjoint experiment trying to identify the packaging design elements appropriate for them to access the market. Okay, so we started with a pre-study that we did in early 2021 in northern Benin. And this study should help us to identify the stimuli for our conjoint experiment. So we conducted interviews and asked child food customers about their preference regarding to different products that they liked and disliked. We did research and analyzed the design elements of the packaging of these products, and also the reasons of consumers for choosing or for liking or disliking the products. We also, or our colleagues in Benin, also had discussions with local women groups producing child food products to get some more information on design elements they would rate appropriate that could be used on packaging as well. And the product these women groups choose to be tested was porridge. So there you can see the different attributes and attribute levels that we choose to test in our conjoint experiment. So it was color, background elements, silhouette of a woman, nutritional information, and images of cute animals. These categories or attributes were chosen from the results of the pre-study. And then you can see the different attribute levels. We do not have to go through them in detail now. So based on this information, we designed 15 packaging designs, 15 images of packaging designs. We used the brown paper bag. They each had a white sticker on. The sticker showed, or all stickers showed the ingredients of the product, as well as the various design elements. And these images were embedded in an online survey and displaced in a randomized order and shown to participants of the traditional conjoint analysis. So they were rated, the attractiveness of the images was rated by participants on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 representing the highest number. We had 110 participants from Parakou, which is in northern Benin, and the surrounding areas of Parakou, who completed the survey. Majority of them were females. The average age was 29 years. Then we asked for living conditions and the location where these women lived. So 78% lived in towns. The housing gave us a really good indication about the economic situation. So you can see that about half of the women or of the participants were more affluent, while the other half were most probably not so affluent. And the majority of participants of the study were, when taking part, looking after children, either their own or children of family members. That are the results of our study. So you see that the importance of attributes, you can see that the background element, I'm going to give you some more information on that soon, was rated the most important. So it had the highest part with utility, followed by the women's silhouette, color, the cute animal, and then nutritional information. Where going into more detail, the blackboard was the background element with the highest part with utility. It was followed by the traditional silhouette of a woman, then by the color red bubbles, followed by, I think it was the image of a cute, by the contemporary silhouette of a woman, the image of a cute animal, and then the traffic light label for nutritional information. All other attribute levels are either less significant or insignificant due to the p-value. This gives you a better overview about the results. So you see that the background element blackboard, which was derived through discussions with the women groups, for example, was rated the highest. And this was actually not a result from our packaging analysis, but as I said, from the discussions, and it was taken from work sprints, which are really, really highly rated clothing item used in West Africa. As were the red bubbles that were tested as a color. And then the silhouette of a traditional woman, which was having the third highest part with utility, was also a traditional element. The cute giraffe was an element that was tested based on the results of the pre-study. And then the traffic light label was also from the pre-study. So meaning, looking at these results, that the traditional symbols had a high relevance or received the highest part with utility of child food customers from Benin, meaning they really attracted their attention. But, and that is a huge problem of our study, the results we got, only 12% of the data's variance is actually, or can be explained by the data we got. So meaning that we really have a huge gap of data that we cannot explain. So we have to undertake further research, or are currently busy undertaking further research to determine the impacts that led to determine the other impacts. And yeah, but as I said, so we really believe that the traditional symbols are really attractive to Beninese child food customers, most probably due to the fact that tradition is regarded really highly in the country. And yeah, that's our research. Thanks.
Yeah, I want to just say something. I'm from Benin. I'm from Nigeria. While you were presenting, I had a lot of things in mind. You know, we know how these people think. I'm from southeastern Nigeria, so we have different cultures. You know, people from the north, which is the northern part of Benin, may behave similar to the northern part of Nigeria. So, and I'm sorry to say this, but this may not spoil. You know, when they may think these products may end up being expensive. So they may not show interest. So I think the people, you need to work with the locals, people who are a bit educated, to let them know, because people from the north will say, oh, they prefer to do things their way. Go to the local, they do, like in my side, there's what they call this fermented corn, call it akamu, use it to make food for the kids. People, even the educated ones, still do that till today. They formulated milk, they just say it's expensive. So how much more those in the north? So the symbols and all that, I feel more work should be done, because you need locals to think like them, to make them understand, because this is what they've been practicing for a long time. So I think you need a lot of work to be done with them, to work with somebody who knows how they think. So for me, their interests may not, they think this product may be very expensive, we can't afford it, Yeah, then
I mean, it's probably to give you some background. It's part of a research project, a transdisciplinary one. So with some, actually with a lot of guys.
Yeah,
from
but
Benin.
maybe we'll discuss it.
So but you see clearly the problem that we experience, and I think that's where this 12% of the data variance is coming from. The problem is that we had to start with something. So it was existing packaging, but obviously existing packaging is created having mostly a very Eurocentric, or, the market. I mean, it's usually from multinational companies.
Okay.
So it's not really packaged to meet the demands of the global south, and that is where, but you have to have a starting point in a conjoint experiment, and that's why we try to get the input from the local women groups.
Why didn't you start from, let's say, the urban area like this?
Yeah, but Parakou is an urban area.
I don't really know here, but you said the northern part, so I don't know where the capital.
But I'm not sure if you would like to add something to that.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So, sorry for this, but
No, don't worry.
yeah. So thank you very much for the presentation. So
Mhm.
we see there is a bit of
Okay.
project behind.
But thanks for you.
And we have now the last presentation.
Okay.
You have
So the last presentation in this section will be on consumers' preferences and willingness to pay for nutrient-dense, shelf-stable pigeon pea-based noodles for sustainable consumption. So I'm sorry for this pronunciation. So somebody maybe helps us on this special type of legumes. So we will learn again more in the presentation that will be given by Zahra.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm last presenter and my name is a last later. So my name is Zara Majil from Sokoine University of Agriculture, Tanzania, a PhD candidate. And I'm presenting to you one of the objectives of my PhD study with regard to consumer preferences and willingness to pay for developed pigeon pea-based noodles. And as I said, this is one of the objectives. So the main objective was to develop pigeon pea, value-added pigeon pea-based products. So each consumer has a taste and the preferences that make him or her to accept the product based on different factors, including price, income, weight of the product, and also those which we cannot observe or we cannot tell unless he or she tell in herself in that beliefs, behavior, and attitudes. But all these aimed at attaining the highest possible satisfaction of what she need to consume, derived from these factors. I just mentioned a few factors, but we have a lot of factors, including the environment they live in. So since we develop a new product, we need to understand how consumer would prefer this product and to what extent will be willing to pay for this product if will be enter into the market. So the aim of this study was to assess consumer preferences and willingness to pay for developed pigeon pea-based noodles. The study was conducted in southern zone of Tanzania. This is the study site, Mitumbati and Mibure in Lindi region. We select this region because it's the region which cultivate pigeon peas for selling as well as for consuming. There are other regions which are producing pigeon pea, but most for selling. And that's why we select Lindi region, because we can get all the flavors. The study involved 269 consumers. Among them, 162 were involved in preference tests, where we have school-age children, youth, and adults. So these adults also were participated in willingness to pay because they are able to tell us based on what they have. And though this is not part of the consumer preference, but I want you to know the composition of these noodles. We have 4 samples which have been composed with pigeon peas and wheat flour, and the other 4 has pigeon pea, wheat flour, and orange fresh flour. And these are nutrient content derived from during formulation. We use linear programming Excel solver add-in to formulate the product so as to have different nutrient content, at least to have 50% of recommended nutrient intake. So during testing, first of all, we prepare the sample. We cook the noodles by boiling it, adding a little bit of sugar, salt, and cooking oil. And the equal amount of salt, sugar, and cooking oil were added in all samples, so to make comparable. And then we packed it into coded containers. Thereafter, 4 samples were saved at a time. So each consumer were given 4 samples at a time to test. So they start by testing 1 sample, they rinse their mouths, they test another sample. And after testing each sample, consumer was required to rate it in a 5-point Likert scale, with 1 less preferred and 5 highly preferred. And they rate against these attributes which have been identified during quantitative descriptive analysis of this product. So these are some of the sensory attributes identified earlier during product development. During assessment of willingness to pay, a structured questionnaire was used to collect this information. Willingness to pay, the most preferred sample, driver for buying decision, and price for will be buy. So after assessing the preference, only 2 samples out of 8 were taken for further evaluation, that the willingness to pay. We'll see later which sample have been taken. So during the willingness to pay test, first of all, we explained the composition of the noodles to consumers before they rate it again based on these identified questions. And also we asked them to propose the price that will buy, the lowest and highest price that will buy, and the highest and lowest price will not buy the particular product. Other software, consumer checker and SBSS software were used to analyze our data. And we had mean and standard deviation for continuous variable, such as age, expenditure, price, and preference scores. But for categorical variable, we summarize by using frequencies. And also we do analysis of variance to check whether there was significant difference among gender, age group, and samples. And the tag pairwise comparison test was used to check the differences between the two samples. Also, I conduct logistical regression to determine predictors of willingness to pay. And dependent variable was willingness to pay. And the independent variable involves social demographic characteristics, the age, sex, marital status, education level, but also we had the package size, that means the weight of the product, and also the sensory attribute that I showed earlier. But before we put this in the model for continuous variable, we transform it to natural log 10 to make it comparable. And for this categorical variable, we created the dummy variable so that to make them comparable all variable, because we had different levels in assessing it. Significance test was considered at p-value less than 0.05. So these are consumer characteristics for for preference test. We had 72.8 female, 46.9 consumer age 20 to 49 years, and these 69.8 were married, 77 had primary education level, and 86 were involved in farming activities. For willingness to pay, majority were married, also age 20 to 40 years. I think this is a productive age, and they had primary education, 63, 69 were farmers. And in terms of expenditure, because we need to see if they are able to produce, so in terms of expenditure, at least 1.06 to 4.25 US dollar consumed by 52% of consumer for buying household expenditure. So these are sensory attributes which have been evaluated, and we found that color, aroma, and mouthfeel has highest intensity score, and these three products have similar characteristics. So for the letters you see in this table, which the product with similar letter means that they have almost similar characteristics, but if they have different, means they have different colors. So product PPBN 718, 193, and 136 had similar color, aroma, and mouthfeel. And in terms of overall liking, the first PPBN 193 and 136 have high intensity scores, mean that they like most than the other product. And the third one was PPBN 718. So the first four samples were composed with pigeon peas and wheat flour, and the other was composed with pigeon peas and orange fresh sweet potatoes. So if you look this product in terms of composition, these had almost equal amount of wheat flour compared with sample PPBN 718, and that's why you see they look similar in terms of those sensory attributes. And this is just a map to see how consumer have been like the product. So this is the overall liking. You can see most of the consumer have been concentrated in this area, and the color was the most preferred attribute for the developed product, followed by aroma and mouthfeel. And these are the three samples which I mentioned earlier, 193, 718, and 193. So you can see that majority of them prefer this product. So in terms of willingness to pay, we have seen that sample 718 was preferred by 53% due to its taste, and also consumer 82% were interested in buying, and 54% they say they will buy the product, and the 31 say definitely will buy. So more than 75 they say they definitely will buy the particular product. And this is the proposed price. Here I just present the price that you will buy. So you can see the lowest price they agreed, the mean price they will buy, and the highest price will buy. But since there is a range of variation, we decided to calculate the median price, and we found that a package of 250 grams will be bought for 600, and the package of 500 will be bought by 1,300. These are in terms of Tanzanian shillings, not in USD dollar. And the 1,000 bought for 2,000 shillings. So expenditure per day, package size, and price were the drivers for their buying decision. So if the expenditure per day decrease, less likely to buy the product. But if also the price increase, less likely to buy the product. So sample PBBN 193,718 are most preferred sample due to mouthfeel, aroma, and the appearance. And the consumer are willing to pay for the product if the price will be within their purchasing capacity, and if we'll have a different package size so that can suit different socio-economic level. Food producer should testing the preferences of the product so as to come up with the best choice product that will be acceptable among different consumers in the community, and also should come up with different package size that should fit different socioeconomic levels. I would like to thank German government for their financial support, my veg coordinators, the consumer at district and village levels, and my supervisor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. So maybe again, the first question I would like to ask you what shape the noodles had, and if you were thinking about also testing the effect of shape.
Okay.
I know the Italian noodles, so.
The sample we took for testing is just the straight one, the Italian shape.
So this was like spaghetti.
Yes, it's spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
Yes, but we develop different shapes, so but we take only that one. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. So now the floor is open for questions. Are there any questions?
Recipe. Okay.
One photo of the recipe?
Yeah.
Okay, unfortunately, I don't have here in the slide, but I can give you.
Okay, I want to ask also if you plan to do also the packaging of it
Yes.
after the work.
Yes, we had also planned to develop the package size for these noodles, because we didn't develop only these noodles. We have also instant porridge based for pigeon peas. So since we assess the willingness to buy, we need also to develop package, to have packaging material with different size and with the different materials so that we can know what package size will be preferred.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. If there are no other questions, so I would like to end this session. I would like to thank all the presenters and all the participants. And for me, the presentation is very, very interesting. So we started in Afghanistan and with the meat consumption. Then we went to Honduras and the coffee growers. We learned about what is cascara. Then we learned about the preferences for the child food nutrition in Benin. And at the end, we came to Tanzania and we learned about the preferences for the noodles made from pigeon pea-based pigeon flour, combined with other flours. So my pronunciation of I will learn, I promise, the right pigeon legumes. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of Tropentag and see you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
So let me charge this.
Okay, perfect.